So obviously, like you get ultra shredded, like next level lean. There might be someone listening, someone interested in, hey, what does this guy do to get that lean? And obviously, there's a lot of things we could talk about, but let's just keep it simple, an overview of how your nutrition looked from start to finish, and what are some things that maybe people can learn from your experience. I think that's important as a coach because you're a coach too. So, but talk about
Yes.
your own experience. I think that could be interesting for people.
Okay, like when it comes to nutrition, I've been in the same shoes like 10 years ago where I saw those super shredded people. I was like, there needs to be a secret. I was always looking for that secret, always. And that is a big mistake in one way, where it's like, yeah, looking for that magic food, magic supplement, magic low high day rotation whatsoever. And the main thing with the nutrition is like how it basically looks like for me, right? Like a day, full day of
Yeah.
eating in a way. So I never followed a strict meal plan because right, we are also like yeah, it's like less realistic than follow like a training program, for instance, right? Like on the nutrition side of things, you can swap out your foods as long as you hit your calories, macros without anything changing. But if you swap out your training exercises every week, a little different, right? So on the nutrition side of things, I try to have still a routine always. Like I have a set amount of meals. I know exactly like more or less what I'm eating, but I still have the flexibility of switching some foods out. For instance, I this day I have guava, the other day I have papaya, for instance, something like that. But the deeper I get into prep, the more it looks almost like a meal plan. Where I wake up, I have always those 40 grams of whey in the morning, and then my pre-workout is always was always a cream of rice with some nut butter, fruit, dark chocolate, and then the post-workout. What I did, the leaner I got was actually having only vegetable and chicken post-workout that I have a little more carbs for dinner before sleep because it felt like it helped a little with my sleep. So I had like, I believe it was another cream of rice before sleep with some fruit inside and nut butter. And that was like my routine. So yeah, what I do is like just making sure I'm sticking within a caloric deficit, which makes sense, like one that is not too big, not too small, hitting my proteins and sticking with the routine basically. Like it's a sweet spot, right? Like some people need a little bit more of a meal plan side of things, depending also on your job, right? I am fortunate enough to work from home as a coach, so I don't need to do any meal prep. I didn't do any meal prep. I don't need to, right? But if you have to go there, you might need to have a little bit more like a meal plan because yeah, you're less flexible. So it's very depending.
How many meals would you say you were eating from the start, and did that change at the end of your contest prep per
Always
day?
the same. One
Okay.
snack and two meals. So four protein feedings, and I do the exact same thing in my off season. So this makes it so easy as well. What I can recommend for everyone listening: build up the habits in the off season, like your routines, like how many meals you just feel the best with. What is the most realistic? For some people, it's 5 meals. For other people, 3 meals, 4 meals. And then what I do when I start my contest prep or my fat loss phase, I just swap out what I'm eating. Like let's say deep into the off season, I have that morning shake with like full fat milk, or I blend it with banana peanut butter. And what I do in prep is technically the same thing, but it's just water and whey, for instance. And there you don't need to think much about. You have the routine, your habits, and that is like what works the best for me. Like always like 4 meals, like one shake snack in a way. And that's what I want the whole off season, the whole prep, like all the time throughout the year. So when I transition to fat loss or prep, all I need to do is like swap out what I eat basically. Easy as that. Yeah.
Right, right. And what did you like to keep your protein intake at? And are you someone that responds a bit better to like a higher carbohydrate, lower fat, relatively speaking? Because I know some guys they like the higher fat, lower carbs. And when I say high fat, I'm talking like in the hundreds, and then the carbs are like less than 100. I've seen that before, actually.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. And what I changed this contest prep, we kept the protein higher than last time, just because I think we talked about it also on the last podcast with like a higher protein take for like recovery purposes
I think we did.
specifically.
Yeah, I think we might have touched on it, but we didn't get deep into nutrition last time. So,
Not too deep, yeah, and the fat's a little bit higher, but still a balance, still a balance. So the protein was at around 170 to 190 grams. The fats I had 40 to 50 grams every day. So it's
okay.
not extreme low fat, not extreme high fat, so fats, but I had 30 or something, 20 to 30 last prep. And I felt like with a little higher fat intake, I just felt better this prep. Like the
Oh,
diet side effects been a little bit less. The performance at the gym was the same, even though I had therefore like a little bit less carbs. Because we have to remember with the carbs, like even in a diet, like training doesn't use that much glycogen as we think it does. Yeah, and also with the higher protein intake, I felt like especially at Worlds, I maintained my muscle better than ever this season. Better than ever, I
yeah. And
think.
that's at 170 to 190 the whole way through. So even as you were getting leaner, you still kept it in between that amount.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was
And
super sustainable.
as you got leaner, did you find that the protein was closer to 170 than it was 190, or was it actually reversed?
Actually reversed, closer to
Ah, that's what
190.
I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Like
makes
I just
sense.
enjoyed my extra chicken. Things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
And you felt that
Yeah.
that actually had a positive impact on your ability to, well, not only maintain muscle, but you actually felt you looked better for that reason.
Yes,
But
like
yeah,
look better, and I can tell by how I excited I stayed for the gym. That is always my main sign. This prep, I didn't had like those days where I felt like burned out, where like I really don't want to train. Previous prep, I had a few days where I was total zombie mode, where I was going so hard through the motions almost. And this last prep, I didn't had it. And this is a huge sign because once you feel like you're really treading the gym, like it feels like your body is telling you to not do it, don't do it, don't do it. That is usually the warning signal of like, hey, you might push too hard, or now is the point where you start losing muscle tissue. And that is basically what recovery is about. That's why also with the higher protein intake, I felt like my recovery was better because I didn't had to go into this dark phase of like hating the gym, feeling like total shit during training. So I didn't had that this time. And that was a big one. And I remember my first prep 2021, like it took me weeks after prep to regain enjoyment for the gym. Like even after prep, it was, I don't want to train. I don't want to train. I don't want to train. Like it
wow.
was very bad. Yeah.
Were you still in Thailand in 2021?
Oh, no, no. That was still in Germany. I did my prep there
Germany?
in Germany.
But because I'm trying to relate this back to maybe environment, or maybe was it something?
That is the big one. Yeah.
Okay, okay, because I know like these dark, gloomy days in Germany are similar to the Netherlands. If I was feeling that sometimes during just like normal, like no contest prep, imagine contest prep, how that might feel, right?
Yeah, like the dark weather, right? It impacts your mood always, right? Like with the sun, it's a big thing. Why I live in Thailand, it's the sun, honestly. Like it
Yeah,
makes you happier, more productive, you feel better. And the dark days in Netherlands, Germany, right? It can make you feel a little bit down. Then in combination with prep with like very compromised hormones, it makes you feel even worse. And there were
yeah,
also on the flip side, I had also like a different job. Like on the side, I worked in a bar. So this was big hit on my recovery, big hit on the first prep.
yeah,
But I'm very proud that I did still got to that lean level, but it definitely cost me a little bit more muscle than I would have liked to, I believe. That
wow,
plays a big role in environment.
yeah,
But
yeah.
again, we have to accept what we can't change sometimes
Of
too.
course.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, you know, it's interesting. You changed your environment. That was a choice. Like nobody just handed that to you. So you woke up one day, and I'm not saying it happened just like one day, but this thought was probably in your mind, and you thought, you know what, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to change my life for the positive. And that's what you did. You moved and you changed your environment, and look at the benefits it's had on you, right? So that's something that, like, if you don't like something, find a way to change it, right? You can do that.
That is 100% the thing. And it's not for everyone. Like I know a lot of people who wouldn't enjoy that lifestyle of moving away from family, friends to a different country. A
True.
lot of people wouldn't enjoy that. But then again, if you complain about something, find a way to fix it. Like if
There it
someone
is.
complains about, hey, living in Germany, for instance, then hey, either move to another country or accept it. There's only two logical choices, right? I
Right.
feel
Why?
because yeah.
That's true. Why would you want to live your life every day complaining and not feeling happy, right? So that's true. That's a good point. Like then you got to
Yeah.
change it if that's you, if you're someone that's constantly complaining. Unless you like complaining secretly deep down. It's like, you know, there's people like that, I think,
Yeah.
right?
But honestly, a big part also of the move was like for me, like as an athlete as well, because I also see like, hey, what an impact the environment has. Also, if you're like a very high level athlete, you need more recovery than the average person as well, right? Because you're training, like you go to extreme levels, right? With every extreme sport, I think like the demands for recovery are way higher than for an average person in order to also progress from that. So having that good environment becomes even more important, I do believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a
How
way.
important is the carb timing when you're dieting? Just placing your carbs correctly throughout the day, I should say.
Yeah, I would say the leaner you get, the more important it becomes because we are losing like some metabolic flexibility, right? Like the leaner we get, like people probably know when you get very, very lean and you have your designated kind of meal times. And if you don't eat your meal 2 hours after, right, like blood sugar goes down, you get a little lightheaded, all those kind of things. And the thing is like your body is also like getting more efficient, right, with using the carbs. So putting them the majority around training makes a lot of sense. And then basically using them during training because if you don't have, let's say, no, I think the pre-workout is even the most important almost. Like even more like post-workout, at the end, I didn't have any carbs and I felt like it didn't make a difference. But I would say the pre-workout meal is probably the most important meal of the day when you get very, very lean. I would say so. And there you'd directly utilize the carbs, putting a lot of carbs into it, also some fats to keep the blood sugar levels up there, and also protein. What I would say though, also like post-workout, the protein is very important for the muscle
Yeah,
protein synthesis and all of it. So yeah, like carbs before training, I would say. And I experiment with like putting also some carbs before sleep, help
right.
me also like sleeping better. Like that's also a big thing. A lot of people text me, hey Dirk, how you can still hit 90 sleep scores being that lean. Yeah.
I've actually noticed that too. I always have carbs before bed. Even when I'm not dieting, I find that it's helpful for my sleep.
Yes.
So
Yeah. It does.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Feel so.
So I can only imagine like when you're like really getting into these contest the stage ready territory, we should say, that probably is even more important, right?
The nutrient time becomes important because you
Yeah.
in a deficit, right? Like you are like starving basically. So this little amount you have, you should put them wisely around the parts of the day where you need them the most. That's how I
Yeah.
like to put it, basically, where you need them the most. Yeah.
Working with Alberto, I'd be curious about this. What's your take on carb timing even in the off season? I'll give you an example. Here's what I mean by that. Like you take two scenarios where you're in a surplus, the exact same surplus in both scenarios, but in this surplus, the timing is different than this one. So in this one, all your carbs are before training. We'll just say majority of the carbs are before training and maybe some before bed just to help with your sleep. And in this scenario, it's more evenly distributed. Do you think, aside from maybe potential performance differences, but do you think that that might have an effect on, let's say, body fat distribution? Do you know anything about this? Have you spoke to Berto about this? Has this crossed your mind? I'm just be curious.
Never talked with Berto about that. Like, I do believe when like the energy balance at the end of the day is similar, it probably doesn't make too much of a
Right.
difference.
Okay.
I think, and training performance wise, that is one scenario where I would even say pre-workout isn't that important, especially when you're very, very, very deep into the offseason. You're constantly overfed, your glycogen storage is full, your body is very, very much metabolically flexible, right? Like your body is just feeling safe. Like you can eat a whole day nothing and your body is feeling fine, right? And if you do
Right.
that during a diet, if you would fast a whole day, especially when you're very shredded, your body you would go nuts. You would feel it. And deep into offseason, you could a whole day. You probably know that when you travel, you didn't eat anything a whole day and you're, oh, I forgot to eat, right? And going
Right.
deep into a cut, you're very lean. I always have it when I was traveling and sitting in the airplane to USA or like a 10 hour trip. I was hyped, like my body felt stressed. It was like that long periods without eating is like very stressful. So
Mm.
I think with body fat distribution, it doesn't make too much of a difference. And what I do believe though, sometimes even deep into the off season, sometimes I think even like a little bit of a placebo can help of having some, it just feels good having some pre-workout carbs, right? That pre-workout meal, even maybe into a diet. I think there's some placebo maybe where you feel like, hey, I have that good pre-workout meal, power up and the performance is probably better. And when you don't have a pre-workout meal, I noticed myself, I feel like something is missing. I need that banana before training, right? Like that little power up. Even though with caffeine can also sometimes be a little placebo in regards to performance, right? You feel like you had the pre-workout check, so oh, I can push harder.
Yeah, yeah.
Where
No, not for
it
sure.
wouldn't make a difference without the placebo. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big one actually.